Welcome to today's explainer. If you're the kind of person who really likes to cut through the noise and dive deep into the why behind the world's most complex issues, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're unpacking a highly fascinating, deeply profound philosophical text. Now, this source material doesn't look at our modern global crises as just, basic political or economic failures. Instead, it diagnoses the chaos we see all around us as a fundamental spiritual crisis. It's a pretty bold claim, right? But we're going to break down exactly how this text maps out the problem, and honestly, more importantly, the solution.
So here's the ultimate question. We look at the news, we look at our communities, and we just see immense suffering, stress, and unexplainable chaos. Why is the modern world plagued by so much of it? Well, the text we're analyzing today gives a very specific, unflinching answer to this. It basically argues that humanity has fundamentally lost its way, not because we lack technology or resources, but because of a terrifying surplus of pride.
Let's jump right into Section 1, The Rise of Ego, or Ahankara ka Ore.
Now, the text draws this absolutely fascinating, sharp contrast between two completely opposing desires. On one side, we have the ambition of the modern 20th century scientific man. According to the source, humanity right now seeks power purely for the sake of power. It's this dominating, destructive force that the text actually compares to the demonic might of mythological figures like Ravana. But then, look at the other side. This is contrasted directly with the divine will. The divine absolutely does not want humans to become arrogant tyrants wielding scientific power. The ultimate desire of the divine is an empire built on pure truth, love, and purity. So we've got a massive clash of intentions here.
And because of this massive clash, the source pinpoints this exact type of arrogance, what it calls the demonic ego, as the literal root cause of all our modern flaws and global destruction. This false pride, it completely tricks us. It makes us feel like we're the ultimate doers in the universe. We genuinely think we're in absolute control of our destinies, our societies, and our planet. But the text argues that this specific illusion of control is exactly the anchor dragging humanity straight toward ruin.
Which brings us to Section 2, The Cost of Sin, or Paap ka Parinam.
Take a look at this ratio because it's honestly pretty shocking. Because of this unchecked ego, the world has fallen into a severe imbalance. The text estimates that the world is currently operating on a ratio of 3/4 sin, meaning destructive, ego-driven action, to just 1/4 virtue. Visually, you can immediately see how completely skewed and unsustainable this operating model really is for humanity. And the author doesn't just leave this as some abstract philosophical idea. When the balance of humanity is 75% steeped in sin and ego, there's physical blowback. The text attributes devastating global wars, widespread outbreaks of disease, and increasingly violent natural disasters directly to this overwhelming imbalance. These aren't random tragedies, according to the source. They are the literal ecological and societal wrath generated by a world drowning in its own false pride. The author even goes so far as to warn that this trajectory leads straight to mass destruction if it's left unchecked. So let's talk about the way out in Section 3, the path of surrender, or Ishwar ki Sharan. So what's the fix? Well, the proposed solution is incredibly simple, but also incredibly difficult. We absolutely have to abandon this false ego. Those who want to survive this terrifying era of chaos must drop their atheism, drop the illusion of self-reliance, and instead take complete unconditional refuge in the divine. Basically, it's a total, absolute surrender of the need to control. But when you actually do that, something beautiful happens. Just listen to this absolutely stunning metaphor straight from the text. The surrendered heart is like a clean glass lantern, radiating light inside and out. It's so vivid, right? When you finally wipe away the thick soot of the ego, of constantly trying to force your will upon the world, you achieve this amazing state of inner clarity. You aren't just receiving light anymore. You're seamlessly transmitting it to everything around you. And this brilliantly illustrates how total surrender completely rewires a person's everyday perception. According to the text, once you're absorbed in this devotion, you literally begin to forget worldly objects. You become functionally deaf, dumb, and blind to shallow material subjects. Now, it's not a loss of your senses. Actually, it's an upgrade in your focus. You become completely immune to the distracting noise of the modern world, simply because you now only see the divine presence in absolutely everything. Let's move on to Section 4, Divine Grace, or Ishwarya Kripa. This is where it gets really poetic. The text actually maps the clear, recognizable signs of God's favor directly to the greatest attributes of the natural world. So if you've received this grace, you'll begin to exhibit the boundless generosity of the sun. You'll possess the immense, unshakable patience of the earth, and you'll embody the continuous flowing charity of a river. These natural forces, they don't hoard their power, right? They give it freely, which is the exact literal opposite of that modern demonic ego we were discussing earlier. But the absolute crucial takeaway here is understanding the day-to-day psychological difference between these two states of being. On one side, we have the doer, the person totally trapped in their ego. The text notes that this person is just crushed by the anxiety of their own upkeep, constantly worrying, tightly wound, stressing about how to maintain their status and survival. But on the flip side, the surrendered person is entirely carefree. Why? Because they know on a fundamental level that their absolute well-being and maintenance are now entirely managed by the divine. They've literally just stepped off the treadmill of anxiety. Oh, and the source adds this deeply fascinating, very specific theological rule regarding this relationship. It basically says that God will readily tolerate criticism of himself. However, the divine will absolutely never tolerate the criticism or condemnation of a devoted, surrendered follower. It's such a profound statement about the ultimate, fiercely protective grace that's granted to those who willingly give up their false ego. They are guarded in a way the rest of the world simply isn't. So, this naturally leads us, and really any serious seeker, to the most practical question of this whole explainer. How do you actually achieve this divine vision? If letting go of the ego is the ultimate cure to all this chaos, what's the actual mechanism to make that happen in real life? That takes us to our final part, Section 5, Importance of the Sadguru or Sadguru Gamahatva. According to the source, you can't just do this alone. To truly find this path, seekers have to present themselves before a Sadguru, a true spiritual mentor. The mentor provides what the text beautifully translates as the collyrium of knowledge. It's essentially a spiritual eye salve. Because the ego has made us spiritually blind, we desperately need this medicinal wisdom from a guide to finally clear our vision. And it's this specific grace, passed directly from the mentor, that finally dissolves that stubborn, destructive false ego. Once that huge blockage is removed, the seeker is finally granted the divine vision necessary to truly see the divine form. The transformation is totally complete at this point, from the demonic, power-hungry anxiety of the modern world, straight into total, luminous peace. We've definitely covered a lot of profound ground today with this remarkable text, but before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to really chew on. Think about your own life, your own daily stresses, and your own ego. If you were to completely let go of your desperate need to control everything today, what kind of light would your glass lantern radiate? Thank you so much for focusing in with me today, and as always, keep exploring.